For over 40 years, attorney Chip Nix has experience in personal injury claims involving the most serious and catastrophic injuries. Helping victims injured at work, at home, or on the road is attorney Chip Nix's mission. The law offices of attorney Chip Nix is committed to representing clients with integrity and getting the compensation they deserve. This evening, attorney Chip Nix discusses the legal issues that affect you most. This is Justice for You with your host, attorney Chip Nix.
Welcome to Justice for You, where we talk about what you need to know if you have been injured or if you are being denied justice. Tonight we will discuss workers' compensation and third-party cases. We will talk about how third-party cases work, what they are, when you've been injured on the job, and we will talk about why third-party cases are so important for you to know about. We will give you tips, questions to ask about a third-party case, and steps you need to take if you or a loved one has been injured on the job so that we may obtain justice for you. Tonight I have my good friend Kent Hunt with me, who will enter into our discussion. Kent, thank you so much for being with me again tonight. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you for having me, Chip.
Well, last week we talked about workers' compensation and immunity, and we talked about some parts of workers' compensation that you need to know about. One of the things we talked about was that the legislature is currently taking into consideration the fact that there is a $220 cap on the compensation paid to injured workers if they are not 100% vocationally disabled. So that is something that is supposed to be going on right now. There is a Alabama State Bar committee task force that's been assigned to study it and make recommendations to the legislature for their review.
Chip, what specifically are they considering at this time? Do you know what they're considering?
I know some of the things that they're considering. We've talked on previous shows about the $220 cap. The $220 cap is a very, very unfair element of the workers' compensation statute. So they're talking about ways to try to improve that. Let me give you an example. If a person is injured on the job and they are not totally disabled, they are subject to a $220 per week cap in terms of the benefits they can be paid for permanent disability. Obviously, if your employer pays you more than $220 a week, you will not be adequately compensated under the workers' comp statutes. They're also thinking about changing the medical coverage in this respect. Workers' compensation is supposed to pay for your medical expenses for injuries on the job. Right now, the statute says that they have to pay for the rest of your life, so that if, let's assume you have a knee injury and you go to the doctor and initially the doctor treats you for the immediate effects of the knee injury. Well, let's assume further that 5 years from now, you go to the doctor having a lot of knee problems, and he says, you know, that workers' compensation injury is going to cause you to have a knee replacement. The workers' compensation carrier right now is obligated to pay for that, no matter how long it is. One of the things that some people are talking about is reducing the amount of time the workers' comp carrier will be responsible for those expenses. And we believe that a reduction like they're talking about of 2 years, in other words, the comp carrier would only be responsible for 2 years, is not a good thing, and we hope that the legislature will see it that way.
Chip, is there anything the viewers who are listening now and who are beginning to get an idea about how inadequate workman's compensation is, and that there is a State Bar Committee? Is there anything that they could do to help move the modifications or the changes along?
Absolutely. What you need to do is to call the State Bar Association and tell them, hey, we know that you have a task force that's taking into consideration what should be done about workers' compensation in this state to make it more fair, and we would like to register our concerns. Additionally, call your legislator and explain to the legislator what your concerns are. Let me tell you about one other aspect that we talked about last week, Kent. We talked about immunity. An employer in an on-the-job injury situation has what we call immunity from suit for anything other than workers' compensation benefits. There are a few things that can be done against an employer, like if they treat you extremely badly, or if they lie to you, or something like that. But for the most part, you cannot sue an employer. Tonight, one of the things we're going to be talking about is third-party cases. Third party is this. You are party number one, your employer is party number two, and any other person or company is party number three, the third party. And you have a right to make a claim against a third party for your injuries. In that way, you can be more fairly compensated.
That's what I was going to ask. For those of us who are being introduced to third party for the first time, I was going to ask you to explain why viewers and why myself, why should we be interested in third party when we already have workman's compensation?
Well, Kent, workers' compensation benefits are so low in Alabama. You don't get paid for pain and suffering, emotional distress. You don't really get paid much of anything for a permanent disability. Therefore, you have to find a way to be adequately compensated. A third-party claim is the best way for an injured worker to be adequately compensated, and we're going to talk about what some of those types of claims are. We will talk about third-party cases when we return from this break. Thank you for watching. Hello, my name is Chip Nix. I'm here at the law offices of Chip Nix in Montgomery, Alabama. I want to tell you about a 20-year-old young man that we were able to help a few years ago. He lost his right hand in an industrial accident. We were able to provide a settlement for him that obtained two primary parts. The first thing we were able to do through the help of an artificial hand expert was to get him a bionic hand that really functions. And second, we were able to work with a financial company to provide, in addition to cash, $5,000 that will be paid to him on a monthly basis for the rest of his life. If you have a personal injury case, or if someone in your family has tragically been killed, call us. We will search for justice for you. Some people say personal injury law is all about the money. Well, they're right. It's about the money to provide a bionic hand to a young man who has lost one of his in an accident. It's about the money for a family who has lost a mother due to a drunk driver. Yes, for the law offices of Chip Nix, it is about the money. It's about the money to help people salvage a decent life from the wreckage of someone else's carelessness. Justice for you begins here.
For over 40 years, attorney Chip Nix has experience in personal injury claims involving the most serious and catastrophic injuries. Helping victims injured at work, at home, or on the road is attorney Chip Nix's mission. The law offices of attorney Chip Nix is committed to representing clients with integrity and getting the compensation they deserve. This evening, attorney Chip Nix discusses the legal issues that affect you most. This is Justice for You with your host, attorney Chip Nix.
Welcome back to Justice for You. We're talking about third-party claims where someone other than your employer or a co-employee causes you injury while you're on the job.
Chip, you introduced third party to us before the break. Do you mind giving us some examples of third party cases?
Absolutely. Let me give you this example. Assume that Benjamin is a big truck driver. He works for a trucking company and he hauls gasoline products. One day he is on the job driving down the road and another truck crosses into his lane of travel and causes him to run off the road into a deep ravine. He was seriously injured and he was entitled and did obtain both workers' compensation benefits, which as we said are inadequate to take care of him and his family, but he also obtained third-party damages from the truck and the company that employed that driver from running into his lane of travel and running him off the road. So that's an example of a third-party claim.
Okay, third-party big truck, do you want to talk more about that now, or do you want to talk about some other examples of third-party claims now, cases?
Let me give you some other examples of third-party cases. A regular automobile accident is an example of a third-party case. If you're a salesperson and you're driving down to Mobile and another vehicle hits you from the rear, you're entitled to workers' compensation benefits, but you're also entitled to damages from the driver of the car that hit you. Let me give you another example. Industrial accidents. Industrial accidents are accidents that occur in industrial plants. If you are injured on the job, like one of our clients lost his hand in an accident, for example. Another client was severely cut on the hand because the employer did not provide the right kind of gloves for him to work. In each of those cases, the employee is entitled to workers' compensation benefits, but also entitled to file a third-party claim. In the industrial accident where the man lost his hand, he was entitled to sue a product manufacturer because a product was defective, did not have the right kinds of guards, and caused him to lose his hand. So he had both a workers' compensation case and a third-party case against the manufacturer of the machine that caused the injury. The other man, who had a severe cut tendons and nerves in his hand and he couldn't use the hand, was entitled to workers' compensation benefits, but he was also entitled to a claim against the glove manufacturer for because they were improper. They did not meet the requirements of the type of products that they were.
Chip, what about in an industrial setting where, what other kinds of accidents can happen in an industrial setting that an employee could end up being hurt during? It could lead also to a potential third-party claim in addition to the workman's comp.
Well, another example that I can give you is where a man was working in a large plant. The plant had recently installed a heavy piece of machinery. And this heavy piece of machinery was installed by another company. It was not installed by the employer. It was installed by a third-party independent company. Well, this company neglected to secure the machine to the floor. And as this man was working with the machine, it fell over on him and caused very severe injuries. The third-party claim was against the company that failed to secure the machine. The employer had to pay workers' compensation benefits, but the third-party claim actually provided compensation for this man that assisted his family in being able to live. And let me give you another example. This is what I call a third-party claim. A person is provided a company car, and driving the company car from one location of the job to another, this person had a logging truck come over into his lane of travel, and the only thing that he could do in response to that logging truck coming directly at him was to go off the road in a deep ravine. Well, the logging truck did not stop. Nobody knew who the logging truck was. This man filed a workers' compensation claim, or we filed one for him, but we didn't know who the at-fault party was, the logging company. So we looked into whether or not there was any uninsured motorist coverage. There was uninsured motorist coverage. Uninsured motorist is where if you have a wreck with an uninsured person or party, then you have the right to collect uninsured motorist benefits based on the amount of coverage you have in your policy. Well, there was a significant amount of coverage in this policy, and Alabama law defines uninsured motorist as including a phantom vehicle. We call phantom vehicles those vehicles that do not stop when a wreck has occurred. So we were able to obtain significant damages from the uninsured motorist carrier.
Chip, we talked, since you mentioned the big truck accidents again and accidents on the road, those kind of things, do you want to take us through the complexities of investigating, if you want to start with big truck wrecks first, the complexities of investigating and gathering information to support a third-party claim?
Absolutely. It's so important that you immediately contact us to help you with a big truck case and with an industrial accident case. The reason for that is that the scene of the accident will change, and therefore you have to quickly get in touch. Let's say a big truck accident, you have to quickly get in touch with the company for the trucker that's at fault in that wreck and send them what we call a spoliation letter. A spoliation letter is something that just says you have an obligation, company, to not change this truck, to preserve the truck, to preserve the logs on the trucker, to preserve all of the records related to the trucker, and we will get in touch with you soon to come review all of that material. Another thing that's absolutely essential, and this is why it's so important to get something going immediately, is that we have to go to the scene of the wreck. The scene of the wreck will be examined by experts. For example, there are experts who recreate what happened in the accident based upon the physical aspects of the scene of the accident. They determine point of impact, they determine speed. They can determine speed in a couple of different ways that we will explain next week. But experts are essential in a big truck case. Another type of expert that we'll talk more thoroughly about next week is a truck safety expert. Our team, we have a team of experts. Our team includes mechanical engineers, some physicists, truck company safety experts, and medical experts. It's also important to make sure that the workers' compensation carrier is providing adequate treatment, so we have medical experts that we discuss the cases with to make sure that that's happening.
You know, one of the things that I like to point out, things that are new to me, like I think they would be to most of our viewers, but it seems to me that the team that you've built, you have access to team members that can address each one of those specialties, and each one of those specialties is absolutely necessary to try to prepare and maintain the evidence that you can use to get what is your client is due.
That is absolutely right. You have to have the evidence. The evidence has to be reliable. It has to be preserved. And that's the reason that we really need for you out there to call us right away, because we can do something about preserving the evidence if we know about it, if we have the case and we're working the case. That's what we do. Kent, it looks like we've covered a lot of information already. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we will summarize what we've discussed. You're watching Justice for You. We've got more after this.
Hello, my name is Chip Nix. I'm here at the law offices of Chip Nix in Montgomery, Alabama. I want to tell you about a 20-year-old young man that we were able to help a few years ago. He lost his right hand in an industrial accident. We were able to provide a settlement for him that obtained two primary parts. The first thing we were able to do through the help of an artificial hand expert was to get him a bionic hand that really functions. And second, we were able to work with a financial company to provide, in addition to cash, $5,000 that will be paid to him on a monthly basis for the rest of his life. If you have a personal injury case, or if someone in your family has tragically been killed, call us. We will search for justice for you. I'm attorney Chip Nix, host of Justice for You. Justice for You applies not only to the clients we serve, but also to the community. At nixattorney.com, we provide answers to questions about personal injury with direct access to me and my associates. If you've been injured, contact me at 334-279-7770. Justice for You starts here.
We're back with Justice for You. Thank you, Kent, for being my guest this week. I appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you for having me. Again, Chip, you've given us lots of great information. Could you give us just a brief summary of what you've covered so far?
Well, basically what we've covered so far, and I meant to try to cover more about industrial accidents, but we've covered a lot of information about big trucking accidents. And the main things you need to remember about a trucking accident is that they are very complicated and complex. We have to preserve the evidence. We have to do special types of work to preserve the evidence. We have to have expert witnesses go to the scene of the wreck and measure skid marks, determine points of impact, determine speed, determine whether or not the truck was in good condition or not. So it's just so essential that you call us as soon as possible after a big wreck.
Is there anything that you'd like to say again about industrial accidents?
Yeah, we didn't really get to talk much about industrial accidents, so let me go through that too. It's a little bit like the big truck case, but let's assume that we're talking about Jerry, who is injured on the job. He got caught, let's say, got caught in a machine and was severely chewed up and injured as a result of that. Fortunately, in this case, we were called early. And because of that, we were able to get a team of experts and go to the scene of the accident and do what we needed to do to preserve the evidence. So first, in Jerry's case, we would send what's called a spoliation letter. Do not spoil the scene. Do not change the scene. Do not get rid of anything at the scene. And then we make an appointment, go out to the scene, and have our experts review what happened. The experts in Jerry's case included mechanical engineers, because we were talking about a machine, included accident reconstruction experts, because we wanted to make sure we understood exactly what happened. So we took experts to the scene, we made an examination of the scene, we recorded everything at the scene, we photographed, we took video, we made diagrams. We nailed down exactly what had happened to Jerry in getting into that machine. And after that, we were able to draft a complaint that set forth all of the defects in the equipment, that set forth the negligence of other contractors on the job. In an industrial accident, let me give you this example. You may be familiar with a term called management of change. Management of change is what industrial companies do to make sure that the conditions are safe. So let's assume they're going to have a big shutdown. They're going to shut the factory down for maintenance. And during the course of this maintenance, they're going to install various new machines, they're going to clean up, they're going to do a whole bunch of stuff. And so they bring contractors in to do all of these things. One of the things that was being done in Jerry's case was being done by an electrical contractor. Jerry was an employee of the electrical contractor. You remember from previous discussions that we cannot sue the employer for anything but workers' compensation benefits. But in Jerry's case, we were able to sue a third party, and that third party turned out to be the company that owned the scene of the accident. And so we did all of that work, and we were able to provide a good recovery for Jerry. Kent, thank you for being my guest tonight. That's all the time we have. You can watch Justice for You Sunday nights after the news at 10. If you or a loved one has been injured in an accident, or if a loved one has been tragically killed, please call me at 334-279-7770. Thank you for watching.